40.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. Thanks, everyone, for your patience. We had a little technical difficulty. It is 6:40 p.m. This meeting is being recorded by the City Council and GCTV 9. If any other persons present are doing the same, you must notify me at this time. Hearing none, we'll move on to roll call.
Did you make the statement of who is attending remotely?
We do have one counselor remotely,
Councilor Gordon, Rachel Gordon.
Counselor Gordon, who is present online.
Okay. Councilor Golub,
Here.
Councilor Gordon,
Here.
Councilor Mastrotaro,
Here.
Councilor Bullock,
Here.
Vice President Gilmore,
Here.
Councilor Perry,
Here.
Councilor Wondolowski,
Here.
Councilor Healy,
Here.
Councilor Garrett,
Here.
Councilor Minhas,
Here.
Councilor Ricketts,
Present.
Councilor Toronzo,
Here.
President Bottomley.
Here.
Mr. President, you have a quorum.
Next is the Pledge of Allegiance, which is voluntary. I'll take a motion to approve City Council meeting minutes.
Second.
Any discussion on this? I guess we will have, all our votes will have to be roll call tonight.
Councilor
Sorry.
Golub. Pardon?
I just said sorry that all the votes have to be roll call because of me.
Councilor Golub,
Yes.
Councilor Gordon,
Yes.
Councilor Mastrotaro,
Yes.
Councilor Bullock,
Yes.
Councilor Gilmore,
Yes.
Councilor Perry,
Yes.
Councilor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Councilor Healy,
Yes.
Councilor Garrett,
Yes.
Councilor Minhas,
Yes.
Councilor Ricketts,
Yes.
Councilor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Thank you. It passes unanimously.
We'll move on to communications from the superintendent and the school committee. Welcome, and thanks for being here.
Happy to. Just have a few things to talk about. First, there has been a request forwarded to the school committee that they consider naming the field hockey field behind Greenfield High School after Donna Woodcock, former athletic director and field hockey coach who passed away a year ago. There's a period of public comment that will be between now and basically the next school committee meeting. So if anyone has thoughts to share with the school committee, please forward those, or you can attend the next meeting to share your thoughts. Graduation, always a happy time, is June 1st, 10 a.m. in the Greenfield High School auditorium. Gina Johnson, the associate principal, will be giving the graduation address. And we're very happy that she stepped in to do that for us, given that Mr. Morrison has left Greenfield. And that's a nice segue into the last piece of information to share. We have some administrator updates to share. As I said, Mr. Morrison has moved up his departure date from Greenfield High School, and Roland Joyle, who is a retired high school administrator and executive director, has agreed to fill in for the rest of the year. Mr. Joyle has been an interim assistant principal at our middle school since February and is very much enjoying being in Greenfield. So he's just going to shift over and take care of the logistics while Gina and Michelle continue to work with our students. Mike Browning, our current Four Corners principal, will be moving into the principalship at the high school effective July 1, and we have very happily hired someone to take his place at Four Corners. Destiny Meeker is coming to us from Holyoke, and she has been in the district meeting some staff, attended a staff meeting. And then Darlene Rehor, who's principal at Newton, is shifting. She's stepping into a different role in the district as our 504 coordinator. And we have also hired for her position Sadie Cora, who is also coming to us from Holyoke, will be joining us July 1st as well. And she also has been in the district meeting staff. And they actually were at playground nights tonight at those two schools to meet families and to visit. So, we're happy that they have agreed to join us in Greenfield. And then the last piece is I wanted to thank the council. This is my last city council meeting. I'll be retiring June 28th, and I'm not able to be at the June meeting. So I just wanted to extend my thanks and appreciation for the welcome and what I feel has been a very collaborative interaction between myself and the city council members. So thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you too for your service very much. It's a difficult job and there's a lot to do. So thank you. I'll take questions from counselors. Counselor Golub and then Minhas.
Thank you for being here tonight, and thank you for your service. And I want to note what a different night this is than a year ago, and celebrating that, I'm sure, with you both. And I know that when I saw the budget, the first thing I asked was, will there be layoffs? Will this affect the teachers and the students? And just very grateful celebrating this budget that there aren't. And part of my one thing that I'm celebrating is hearing about the new music teachers, and I'm just wondering if you could speak to that for folks who are not aware of the music teachers that have been hired, because I think that's something that matters to a lot of my colleagues.
Yes, we're very happy that we did have one of our current general music teachers left us partway through the year. We have been able to fill that position, and then 3 years ago, since I've been in Greenfield, we added an elementary music instrument teacher. And last year, with the decisions that we made around trying to address the potential $2 million change with grant funding, that position was eliminated. And then this year, we have been able to add it back, and we actually have hired someone who will start the position for next school year. But they've already signed all their paperwork, so they are definitely coming. And I apologize, I don't have the names of our new staff, but they are both signed and sealed, ready to go.
Counselor Minhas.
Hello, welcome. First off, again, thank you for your service. And I think everyone here appreciates how and recognizes that this is a very difficult job. You have 1,010 people with everyone with a different angle and a different perspective, trying to steer you in what they think is the right direction. Just some clarifying questions. I don't know if you can answer this. If I have two, is it okay if I ask the first question, then you answer, and then I move on to my second question? Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay. So, what is the reason the principal from the high school left? Can you answer that?
Personnel matters are kept confidential.
Okay.
So,
All right. No worries. Also, I know we'll be discussing the budget and stuff today, and this has been brought up in the past and past council meetings as well. Many councilors and a huge segment of the public feel that the school budget is being misappropriated and sent to and being spent on administrators who are highly paid rather than the actual teachers and directly on student programs such as the music department, art department, sports, all of that. Is there do you agree with that sentiment at all? And has there been any discussion to deviate from that method of spending? Thank you.
I don't agree with that sentiment in any way. We are adding in this budget that's before the city council, we're actually adding positions. Some are related to administrative, such as the second assistant director of pupil services, but we need to be compliant with state and federal law, and that position will better allow us to do that. I appreciate that, as you said earlier, everybody has different perspectives and beliefs about what should be in place or should not be in place. I believe, being that we see the work that has to happen day to day and all of the requirements that exist in public education, that the teachers would not be teaching, the programs would not be running if we didn't have people who were overseeing those programs, providing the required steps. One of the examples, and forgive me, I don't know if I shared it with City Council or if it was at Ways and Means, just the requirement for educational evaluation for teachers that's a big piece that we don't talk about. It's not a glamorous part of the educational process, and certainly not one parents need to think about on a day-to-day basis. But a new staff person in their first 3 years of employment has to be observed at least 4 times. And there are meetings prior to those, meetings following those. There's paperwork that has to be completed for everyone. Veteran teachers require different levels of observation, meetings prior, meetings post, and that's required. So for every building, considering our elementaries, one administrator doing potentially the evaluation of 27 to 30 staff. So I don't necessarily believe that the general public knows all of the layers that require administrative support to make the district run.
I just have a follow-up question. Would you agree that administrators such as principals or even the assistant to the principals are making more, actually, I would say significantly more than the actual teachers who are teaching in the classroom? Would you agree with that? Is that a fact, yes or no?
Well, I don't have the salary schedules in front of me. Administrators generally make more than the teachers. There are comparisons that have been created by a number of local groups that we all use when we're looking at contracts and such. And I believe we are proportionate to any other district. But again, I don't have the numbers in front of me to share that. Sure.
Any other questions? Councilor Master Tataro?
Hi. I hope you're off to do something relaxing. I've got a couple of questions. The 504 coordinator position.
Yes.
So that's a shift in jobs. So I imagine that person is going to keep their present salary, or maybe.
No. The 504 coordinator is a Unit A position, meaning it's under the teacher's contract.
Because I'm curious if it would be more cost-effective if there were a teacher in each school, that perhaps you give them a stipend.
We actually did have that model, and we didn't have teacher applicants for the position. So we went in a different direction to see if we could get the position filled because it's necessary.
The other question I had was, you had sent the income spreadsheet for what I call the bus company you're running for different school. For
Our
different
internal
school districts.
transportation, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
All right, so you brought in well over $300,000 up to the third quarter, up till when you said this fiscal year 24.
Okay.
I've asked a couple of people where that money goes, and nobody seems to have an answer. How is that used? Does that go back into the transportation department?
It's used to offset expenses for transportation.
So those salary numbers that you put in your budget, the $800-some-odd-thousand salary for drivers, that's not the actual number. It's more like 11 more like a million point something?
No, I don't have my budget document in front of me, but when we do the budgeting, the expenses show as the real expenses. We put the exact amount in the budget that we require to run those departments or whatever. When you look, this is the best I can do, so forgive me. When you look at the far right column, oh, Counselor Healy has it right in front of him. Do you mind? That would be. All right, I might have, oh, but you do have the big version, so that's helpful. I might have to hold it really far. If you look really far to the right,
What page?
I'm just on, you can pick any page, honestly. I'm just
Okay.
outlining the format of how
Okay,
we
yep.
do it. So when you look at the full budget, when you go way over to the right-hand side, that column P that says total grants and SRF, it's revolving accounts, those offset the expenses that are in the other column. So you'll see, if you look at column N, sorry, I feel like I'm screaming into the microphone. If you look at column N, that's our budget taking into account all funds, meaning Chapter 70, school choice, all of those grant funds included. That's everything. And then column O is local, what we're asking the city for.
I get
So,
all that, yeah.
okay, so column P is used to offset the expenses that
Total
are.
grants, and that's, yeah, okay.
Yes.
So that 3,634,000, almost 3,700,000, on the bottom line on page 11,
Yes,
that $300,000+ is in that column?
it certainly should be. You have to let me,
No,
you have to let me look and find it, but
Yeah.
yes, it's a revolving account, the transportation, yeah.
Oh, okay, so this isn't all grant money then, in this column?
In column
In
P?
column P, the bottom line.
Grants, revolving accounts, circuit breaker, which is special ed reimbursement, it's all of those.
So that's a good question, because you don't have a full-time grant writer then? Is there?
Aaron and I do that.
Yeah.
We do not have a full-time, it's embedded in, and our special ed director, we all write our grants. Okay?
Okay.
I can give Counselor Healy back his
Yep.
budget,
Yep.
okay?
Yep.
I want to remind counselors too, I mean, this is our budget meeting, so I think these questions are more appropriate
Thank you
tonight.
very much.
But we do have agenda items, so if you think you have a subject that you want to discuss with the mayor, with the school committee, superintendent, please try to send those into to the clerk, just so that we have those bullet points in the future. But I think because tonight's a budget meeting, it makes sense. Do we have any other questions?
This is just one small, tiny. Approximately how many bus drivers do we have for the students that are city employees? Approximately like 10, 15,
I
20?
have no idea.
More than 20?
I don't know how many bus drivers are city employees.
Okay, because from the research that I've been able to do, it's more than 30.
I have no reason to agree or disagree. I would,
I'd also like to remind everyone to put the microphone closer. I guess there's an audio issue online. Do we have any other further questions? Counselor Bullock? And then Counselor Ricketts.
Yeah, sorry, it's not a question, but just hopefully to end on, I do truly want to thank you for your time in Greenfield. I've had 2 kids now in Greenfield Public Schools. You came in like a really difficult time to lead a district, and there was a lot that was sort of left tangled up to be untangled. And there's, as a parent, there's been noticeable difference in the way that the district has been run and in the way that my experience as a parent with a child in the district has been. The level of communication has increased. You know, I used to with my daughter, like if she was absent, wouldn't necessarily get a phone call that she was absent. I was like, she would ride her bike to school. I was like worried. all of that sort of like basic safety stuff has really changed. So I do just want to say thank you. I know often when you come to this meeting, there's like a bit of contention, but it has been measurably different the last few years with you here. So thanks.
I appreciate that. I very much enjoyed my time here. And off to hopefully do something fun when I find out what that is.
Counselor Ricketts?
Hi, yes, same as Councilor Bullock. I just want to thank you for your time. Thank you for everything. Came through the pandemic and brought it till now. I'm so sorry how this started for your last meeting. We have lots of new people here, so again, thank you, Councilor Baldwin, for reminding everyone how this works. And they had months and months and months to do this to Ways and Means. So just want to say to you, run, enjoy.
Any other comments? Seeing none, thank you so much. Thank you both. Next, we have communications from the mayor's office, which I don't believe we have any tonight, but, so we'll move to the questions for the mayor or the mayor's office. The mayor is online to answer questions. Do we have any questions for the mayor? Seeing none, we will move on to, there's no communications from other city employees, so we will move to public comment, which will be our normal 3 minutes. And just state your name and the community you're from. We'll start with Linda Clark.
Good evening. My name is Linda Clark. I live here in Greenfield, out on South Sheldon Road. I'm here in concerns with the school budget, that every year the budget comes around, it's more money, yet always looking to add more positions. I don't know, why does a superintendent need an assistant? And if you look in your budget thing, if you look on page 7, you have $336,000 for the superintendent, and then you look at page 8, you have assistant super, $876,000 plus. Perhaps maybe I'm not looking at this correctly, but it's on page 7 and on page 8, there's 2 different areas why there needs to be an assistant. Then the recorder article that came out regarding the budget, why 6 principals is $600,000, and it comes up with excuses because of the way some students made the behavior issues or vaping, etc. Well, has there been any studies to see how you can utilize the other areas you have? What about your guidance counselors? Why do you need 6 new principals? How about your guidance counselors? What about an in-school suspension room? Possibly hire retired policemen to come in and get parents more involved to pick up their child. If you have someone that's so disruptive, why should all the other students and everybody have to pay? Make the parents more involved. Between 2019 and now, there's 318 less students, and requesting $27.7 million. In 2019, it was $18.5 million. There's a difference here between that time of $9 million in 5 years. I mean, I understand things have gone up, but I mean, $9 million and how many more positions? And even was proposed $4.6 million between last year and now. That's the difference here. And then you've got parking lot rental. I was taken back by that the school department is paying the church anywhere from $20,000 plus for parking. The church isn't on the tax roll, but yet you're taking the Greenfield taxpayers' money to pay out $20,000+. You're not using Green River School. Park those vehicles there. Why pay $20-something thousand? The Bendix area is completely open. Park those vehicles there. Why pay the church $20,000? And then this September, any pandemic funding is dried up, it's gone, as well as grant money dries up. So what happens next year? Your special needs transportation. And don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to discredit anybody in their profession. I'm just asking you to look outside the box, peel the onion down, whatever.
I'm sorry, that's your 3 minutes. If you got a statement you just want to finish up.
Oh, well, I had something that actually went to the whole council. But there needs to be reining in. I mean, when I see last Tuesday that your Greenfield school van that transports your kids is parked outside the Dollar Tree in Northampton, and they're in there shopping, there needs to be some reining in and accountability as to how and when town vehicles are being used, cost-causing measures and whatnot. The taxes, many people are on limited incomes. You have a new library, a new fire station, and a police station that's desperately needed. The town needs fiscal restraints.
Thank you. Pamela Goodwin?
Good evening, councilors. My name is Pamela Goodwin. I live at 54 High Street, apartment 307. I want to thank Linda because I think she pretty much said what I was going to say in terms of school budgeting. I've watched bits and pieces of the Ways and Means, and one of the best, well, there were two really good statements. One was by the mayor saying, we have a revenue problem. We all know we have a revenue problem, and we don't have the money to fund everything that we would love to fund. The second statement was, and I wish I could give the credit to the right person, we need to be, counselors, parents, everybody in this community who cares about education, more involved at the school committee level. I have met 2 to 3 times with Jesus. He has been really working hard on getting the funding out of the state. The state is dropping the ball, and that means we have to fund these programs that are chapter this, chapter that, and it's mandated. So we are always going to have a problem with funding fully the schools. It is, as a former teacher in the district for many, and other districts for many, many years, top heavy. And I know that you could have more guidance counselors that aren't looking for colleges that could plug these kids in with their emotional needs for a lot less money. I believe that the teachers need to be paid, the TAs need to be paid. It all is down to those children that need services. And we can't keep funding assistant this and assistant that and another principal here. And I want to say that Pioneer, where I used to teach, is combining now, I think, with Montague because the enrollment is down. And if you can share services, then you can share expenses and not cut the kids short on being a well-rounded child. They go to school because of sports, because of music, because of art. They don't go to school for reading, writing, and arithmetic. Take it from me, and we went through this last year. The other thing I wonder about is I'd love to see our library open on a Sunday. So apparently we don't have staff that could fund the library past 5 o'clock on some days, and certainly not on a Sunday where a whole lot of families could use that wonderful library. I don't know where we'd find that money either. The other thing I noticed in the budget, because I wish I had more time to look at it all, we have an animal control officer. I was under the impression that it's the entire Franklin County, so I'm wondering how much Greenfield pays compared to other towns that also need to use this service, because we got a lot of animals around, and I know there's been emergencies, and they've had a problem just getting a hold of the guy. So I wish you well. I think this is the hardest meeting, but this budget season has been endless, is what I hear. It's not just come to a May meeting and figure this out. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you. And I see no public comment online, so that will close public comment. Moving on to the public hearing, Councilor Toronzo.
Gee, thanks. Sorry. Oh, Jesus.
Page 37.
37, right?
Yep.
I just want to make sure I didn't have to read more. Okay, this is just the second reading first, right? All right, I'm just going to do it from here because it's easier for me. Transfer $145,155.32 from
I think it
wa-
has to be the actual public hearing, in accordance with home rule.
Did I skip the page? Oh, yeah, that one. Thanks. All right. In accordance with Home Rule Charter, the Greenfield City Council will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 6:30 PM at Johnstown Community Center, 35 Pleasant Street, and Zoom. To receive public input on the following, transfer $145,155.32 from Water Enterprise Bond Premiums Fund 1627 to Water Principal Paydowns. Transfer $214,000 from Bond Premiums Fund 1627 to Sewer Principal Paydowns. Transfer $14,148.05 from free cash to close out deficits in various uncollectible grant funds. Transfer $500,000 from FY24 water retained earnings to replace water mains 2025 capital budget additional request. FY 2025 operating budget. Appropriate $64,866,698 to the general fund for the FY 2025 budget. Transfer $125,000 from bond anticipated notes premiums fund 1628 to FY 2025 general fund short-term interest. Appropriate $2,538,458 for the FY 2025 water enterprise fund. Transfer $7,500 from water enterprise bond anticipated notes premiums fund 1628 to FY 2025 water short-term interest. Appropriate $3,586,722 for the FY 2025 sewer enterprise fund. Transfer $25,000 from sewer enterprise bond anticipated notes premiums fund 1628 to FY 2025 sewer short-term interest. Appropriate $2,326,674 for the FY 2025 GSET enterprise fund. Authorize revolving funds to establish budgets for FY 2025. City Council may consider the same on Wednesday, May 15th, 2024 at 6:30 PM at Johnstown Community Center, 35 Pleasant Street, and Zoom.
Second?
I don't think
Do you
we're
need a
doing
second or
that.
no?
No.
Oh, do we need the materials?
And now I gotta do the second reading, right?
What's that?
Now I gotta do the second reading.
I think we need the last line.
The last part of the public hearing. Materials can be.
John Bottomley, Greenfield City Council President.
Materials can be obtained.
Oh, materials can be obtained from the city clerk's office, 14 Court Square, from 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday through Friday, or phone 413-772-1555, extension 6163. John Bottomley, Greenfield City Council President.
Thank you. I'll open this hearing at 7:13 PM. Is there anyone who would like to speak to these items?
There's no one on the public hearing list that signed up.
And seeing none,
Second reading.
we'll go to the second reading. Counselor Toronzo.
Transfer $145,155.32 from Water Enterprise Bond Premiums Fund 1627 to Water Principal Paydowns. Transfer $214,000 from Bond Premiums Fund 1627 to Sewer Principal Paydowns. Transfer $14,148.05 from free cash to close out deficits in various uncollectible grant funds. Transfer $500,000 from FY24 water retained earnings to replace water mains 2025 capital budget additional request. FY 2025 operating budget. Appropriate $64,866,698 to the general fund for the FY 2025 budget. Transfer $125,000 from bond anticipated notes premiums fund 1628 to FY 2025 general fund short-term interest. Appropriate $2,538,458 for the FY 2025 water enterprise fund. Transfer $7,500 from water enterprise bond anticipated notes premiums fund 1628 to FY 2025 water short-term interest. Appropriate $3,586,722 for the FY 2025 sewer enterprise fund. Transfer $25,000 from sewer enterprise bond anticipated notes premiums funds 1628 to FY 2025 sewer short-term interest. Appropriate $2,326,674 for the FY 2025 GSET enterprise fund. Authorize revolving funds to establish budgets for 2025.
Thank you. We'll close this public hearing at 7:14 PM. Moving on to the operating budget. Is that it? Motions and orders. The first one, If I could have someone read the vote to initiate the process for naming the fields on page 39.
So I just read the whole thing. The City Council moved that it be ordered in accordance with City of Greenfield Code, Chapter 71, City, Town Property, Article 2, naming municipal buildings, facilities, and public places ordinance. The Greenfield City Council initiates the process of naming the fields behind the high school, the Donna Woodcock Fields. Attached hereto and forward said request to the Planning and Construction Committee for hearing and recommendation. Majority vote required.
Second.
And this one came to us, we decided not to send this to a committee because we're simply initiating a rather complicated process that will then go to Planning and Construction Committee, and then will come back to us to vote on. So it didn't seem like that really needed to go to a committee. In the packet, we had recommendations from the rec director, rec commission, and the mayor so far. So I'll open this up for discussion. Seeing none, Councilor Mastrotataro.
I would strongly recommend that this goes through. Donna was quite an asset to the school district and the sports program, and it's something that should definitely be pushed through. So, yeah.
Minhas.
I would like to second that as well. I actually had Donna as a educator, and I mean, she was one of the most committed and down to earth, but also strict educators that I've ever come across. And it's definitely a loss for us that she's no longer with us. But if we can honor her legacy by naming this field, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more comments? We'll take a roll call vote.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Mastrotataro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Absolutely.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
You have a unanimous vote.
Moving on to the next one. If someone would like to read this, initiate the process of naming the baseball diamond. Page 40.
That's fine. The City Council moved that it be ordered in accordance with the City of Greenfield Code, Chapter 71, Town Property / City Property, Article 2, naming of municipal buildings, facilities, and public places ordinance. The Greenfield City Council initiates the process to name the baseball diamond at Veterans Field. Oh boy. Shushnik Diamond. Attached hereto and forward said request to the Planning and Construction Committee for hearing and recommendation. Majority vote required.
Second that.
Similar situation here. Open this up for discussion.
Again, I think this is Shu's 52nd year coaching Greenfield High School baseball. The guy's a legacy not only in Greenfield, Western Mass, but the entire state. I think he's like high school baseball coaches Hall of Fame. I have two sons that played ball for him. I know Mike Toronzo played baseball for him. I've coached under him, and it's too bad we can't name the whole field after him, the whole Vets Field, but it's Veterans Memorial Field, but the diamond will have to do.
Thank you. Any other comments? Let's do a roll call vote.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts, Counselor Toronzo.
Absolutely.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes.
Moving on to appointments, Counselor Golub.
Four, six.
Okay. Order number fiscal year 24-129. The City Council move that it be ordered that the Greenfield City Council pursuant to Charter Section 210 affirms the following appointments and reappointments by the mayor as follows. Commission on Disability Access, Ron LaRoche Jr., alternate, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Community Preservation Committee, Ann Becky George, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Council on Aging, Karen Shepard, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Crossroads Cultural District Committee, Trouble Madison, term to expire once project is complete. Board of Health, Dorothea Melnikoff, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Greenfield Housing Authority, Susan Rogaftik, Governor's appointee, term to expire December 31st, 2029, 5-year term per MGL. Mayor's Task Force Against Domestic Violence, Councilor William Wood Perry, Council President appointee, term to expire December 31st, 2025. Board of Registrars of Voters, Eva Carrier, term to expire April 30th, 2026. David Lewandowski, term to expire April 30th, 2027. Trustees of Soldiers Memorial, Gary Longley, term to expire December 31st, 2027. Majority vote required.
Second.
And do we have a report from committee?
Yes, this received a positive unanimous vote with, I think, each month we've been really commending the community and also the mayor and her team for continuing to bring forward really great candidates and many of these seats being filled, and we're very grateful for that. I will add that there was an email that came in from, I believe it was from Dorothea Melnikoff, saying that she was not able to take the position. Can somebody, we all received this email. Can someone just verify that? Because I believe that it was her, but I didn't write down her name now that I'm realizing it, and I want to make sure that I'm naming this correctly.
Yes, so I move to amend the motion to exclude Dorothea Mendikoff
Yep.
because she withdrew.
Thank you. I would second that.
Any more discussion on that item?
Yeah.
So we'll do a roll call vote on the amendment.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Abstain.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes?
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion passes.
So now we're back to the main motion with all of those as amended. Do we have any discussion on that? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Abstain.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes?
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion passes.
Next, moving on to zoning ordinance, Counselor Bullock.
Yes, so
65.
order number FY 24-069.4A. The city council moved that it be ordered that the city council of Greenfield amend the zoning ordinance, chapter 200, zoning, section 34, sign regulation, subsection F, general sign regulations, paragraph 5, by adding the following language in bold. Section 5, dynamic display signs, also known as electronic message centers, shall be prohibited with the exception of municipal uses. Dynamic display signs, also known as electronic message centers, means that any sign designed for outdoor use that is capable of displaying an electronic signal, including but not limited to cathode ray tubes, CRT, light-emitting diode, LED displays, plasma displays, liquid crystal displays, LCD, and other technologies used in commercially available televisions or computer monitors. Signs with this technology, which are placed by a public agency for the purpose of directing or regulating pedestrian or vehicle movement, are exempt from this chapter, and further amends the table of contents and index of the code, and further that non-substantive changes to the numbering of the ordinance be permitted in order that it be in compliance with the numbering format of the code of the city of Greenfield. So we did not.
We need a second on
Oh,
that.
sorry.
Second.
Thanks, Counselor Bullock.
So we did not have an EDC meeting this month because this was the only thing on the agenda. And it was provided to us in the previous month and in this month's packet that there has been an executive order by the mayor for a sign policy for electronic signs. I was also told that there is a department-specific regulations and procedures that are being created for each department that has LED signs or electronic signs at them. There's two options. Ideally, what I would like us to do is vote on this tonight and have basic aligned legislation to support what is happening in the city. We have two buildings that have sign posts installed that are waiting for signs. And this was a rush because we had a $50,000 grant that was through, I believe, Public Health to receive the sign for the fire station. So if we didn't have a policy in place to spend those funds out before they expired, then we would have to purchase our own sign for the fire department. So voting on this tonight allows us to align our zoning policy with the executive order so that we are now allowing the municipality to have electronic signs. There's a couple things we have 3.5 years left with this administration. So if we, as a council, feel that the policy that's written is not strong enough and we would like to codify our own specific policy, we can do that in the next 3.5 years without fear that the executive order will be different. And I did compare notes from our EDC meeting that we held the month prior where we discussed this with the executive order that was provided to me, and the majority of concerns that were brought up in that meeting are addressed in this executive order. But as I said before, we have 3.5 years to bring language forward that the council would like to see. This really just makes it so that our zoning aligns with us putting a sign up in front of the fire station and the library. The library also is equipped for a sign that is not there yet.
I'll open this up for discussion. Counselor Garrett.
Sorry. Last month, we tabled this because we didn't have a chance to talk about about this proposed change in economic development. We still have not had a chance to talk about this economic development, and I understand, and I'd be happy to address the points in a second. But as far as process is concerned, we can write legislation that is reactive and specific to individual instances, or we can choose to be proactive. And I'm not comfortable voting on something like this for a couple of different reasons without actually having a chance to legislate, for lack of a better phrase. So I wish that we were having this conversation after having had an EDC meeting, and so we could actually think this through rather than simply trying to chase the $50,000 grant that the fire department, would be using for this sign. A couple other parts of this. So one of the first things that kind of came to mind when I saw this and when it came up in EDC months ago is this is allowing the municipality to put up LED signs and not allowing commercial businesses to do the same. And if we are not allowing commercial businesses to do something, why are we allowing the municipality to do it? So there's an element of hypocrisy, I think, that we risk if we create exemptions for LED signs on the municipal level and we have them regulated away on the commercial level. There's a good reason not to have these signs all over the city. Like the one by the high school, for example, is extremely bright. They're distracting for drivers. There's a pedestrian safety issue with these kind of signs. And I understand that the argument in favor of the one by the fire station is about, sending out messages about public safety. But the human eye takes a long time to adjust to bright light, especially in the dusk and evening hours. It takes like up to 10 minutes for your eyes to be able to see something, and that's the greatest risk for pedestrian, especially in a busy downtown. So I have a real concern about safety as far as that is, and the existing regulation, an executive order, as Councilor Bullock kind of referenced, can be undone by a future mayor. But again, the executive order we have here is a draft, so there's no policy in place currently. And I'm also not comfortable voting in favor of something without an actual policy in place, first of all. The draft, I have some questions about. Again, I'm not going to bore the council by going through each of them. But amongst other things, one of the regulations under 4B, if folks have looking at it, it mentions a unit called a nit. 7,500 nits would be the maximum allowed brightness of the sign. But I have a study that I found which basically says that the maximum safe and the signs would be able to be lowered to 10% according to this regulation of that maximum. So that's 750 nits. The safest luminosity that you can have for a person driving a car to not be distracted is 100 nits. And so just like right off the bat, there's stuff that we could very productively have a discussion about amongst the EDC members and then bring this back to the city council. As far as, again, just to address that $50,000 that we were talking about, the city council as a whole could make a decision, again, not reactively, but proactively, to maybe not even allow LED signs. And maybe that $50,000 doesn't become relevant. I'm not saying that's the decision we're going to make, but we shouldn't, kind of legislate for instances rather than legislating kind of for the city's future in general. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's important to mention. Safety, executive orders. There are pre-existing signs in town. Those were not lawful, for lack of a better phrase, under existing regulations. And just because, the two wrongs don't make a right. I mean, just because the sign was put in without taking into consideration what the ordinance actually said, doesn't mean that we as a council, whose job it is to care for the charter, care for the laws of the city, legislate accordingly, doesn't mean we should encourage that. And so I have a series of thoughts on this, but that's, I think all I'll say for this time.
Any more comments on this? Oh, do we have Councilor Toronzo, did you have your?
I did. So if I'm correct, the copy of the Greenfield policy on EMC signs that we were supplied with is the executive order, correct? It's a draft.
I'm
But
sorry, where does it say draft?
I don't think it's a draft.
Because I was told that this was an executive
Okay.
order that was
okay,
completed.
I was just my reason for asking that is some of this is contradictory. First of all, in our own city council order, if we look at the first sentence that says dynamic display signs, also known as electronic message centers, shall be prohibited with the exception of municipal uses. Boom. And then the last sentence in that same paragraph says, signs with this technology which are placed by a public agency for the purpose of directing or regulating pedestrian or vehicle movement are exempt. Those two sentences contradict each other right away, because one's saying any municipal use, one's saying specifically for directing or regulating pedestrian vehicle movement. So I would already have a problem with the language in our own order. And then carrying that forward to the executive order, it's saying they can be used in all zoning districts for educational or municipal uses. Very vague. Carte blanche for municipality to just do whatever they want. And if that's already the order anyway, us voting on this, it does nothing, right? Because the executive order is going to be there unless we codify something that restricts that, because we don't have an ordinance right now that prohibits it or regulates it any further. So I don't really know why we would bother voting on this now. Anyhow, it doesn't sound like the grant's at risk, because it sounds like the executive order is going to take care of that for the time being. And as was said, if we've got, that was a concern of mine, I brought up at chairs, was also the executive orders aren't the way that I like any government to run, because it can flip-flop and get inconsistent. So I'm just going to say I think we should table this for our vote. That would be my suggestion. I'm not making that motion at the moment. But I think we should clean up our own language in our order before we vote on it first and foremost, and then also be able to have a discussion at a subcommittee level to iron out any more details that could come up.
Before we move on, I would like Clerk Scott to clarify a couple issues.
So the executive order that is in the packet is not a draft. Initially, it was emailed out as a draft. This is the policy by the mayor. The language that is in the motion, the only language that's proposed as new is in bold. Everything else it was existing. So it was like that. So it's not being proposed to change. It can change in the future. I'm not saying that. But the only thing that's changing is bold. And as we all know, zoning amendments have a time frame. So this has been, it came before you 2 months ago, and then last month again, and now it's back again. So the last date to consider this proposed zoning amendment is June 10th. So if you want to table it, you're going to have a special meeting to consider it.
Councillor Minhas?
Yeah, I thought we discussed it. Am I just dreaming that? Okay, because I was
Sorry,
like,
we discussed this in March's EDC meeting. This was a topic that was under discussion.
okay,
It was a 4-1 vote.
okay, because I would say I do think that it's important that only the municipality have the right to set up those giant signs. Because I think it's pretty useful for when you have to tell the public when there's hydrants are being flushed, when there's voting, when there's a road blockage, stuff like that. I do not agree. I don't think any business should have the capacity to be setting that up, because then that'll be like a race to a dystopia. You'll have every goddamn weed shop will put one up, and then we'll just be like, oh, weed mania, because they're the only ones who can afford anything. But so I don't think that should be the topic of discussion, or we can discuss it if we want. But and second, I thought we already discussed this. Also, if there is some sort of a time limit on this, and that time limit is also somehow attached to the receiving of funds. I mean, when we're voting on millions of dollars, 50,000 doesn't seem a lot, but 50,000 is more than what the average person makes in Greenfield. So if we're just here you go, crumbs, that's a lot of money. I'd like to receive $50,000. I mean, if the fire station can receive $50,000 for that sign, let's do it. Let's get it passed and done with.
So just to clarify, the time limit is not about the grant. It's not about the funding. It is about Chapter 40A, which guides us through any zoning proposal amendment. Not specifically this one, but any zoning proposal amendment.
Counselor,
And then Gordon.
Counselor Bullock? Counselor Golub?
Well, before I share my thoughts, I just want to make sure I'm understanding what you just said, Clerk Scott. So if we did not pass this now, could we still be eligible for the grant money?
I can't answer that question.
I think that I might be able to answer that question. And if not,
Great, yeah, if you want to give it a shot.
okay. So we needed something, the grant money, I believe, needed to be spent by today or a few days ago. We needed something that codified that we were going to be able to erect this sign. If we spend grant money and then we can't deliver on the outcomes and the deliverables of a grant, we then have to give that money back. So we have ordered a sign with grant money to support the public health department, the health department, and the fire department. The way that I have understood policy, and this is at a state level, is that executive orders are often used in the interim until it can be legislated. So what seems like the cleanest thing for us to do in this case is to codify those 5 words that are changed within this zoning and align our code so that we can erect a sign that will be under this executive order and then under a department policy as well. The grant funds are not tied to this, but we do need to have regulation and a zoning ordinance that aligns with what we're doing within the city. So we spent the money. If we don't deliver, we have to return the money. That's how grants work. And as Kathy said, if we don't do this by June 10th, it expires, we can do this, and then we can go back and say, we don't like the mayor's executive order, we want X, Y, and Z in place, if we can all agree on it, and then pass that later. But in the interim, we will have legislated something so that we can have a sign in front of the fire station that we have spent grant funding on. Can I just clarify one more thing too? I just want to clarify that a business in the city can put up an LED sign, they just have to go through a special permit process. So the municipality gets to bypass that and follow department policy.
Counselor Gordon.
Did you call my name?
Yes. I wasn't sure if you had your hand up to speak to this.
Yes, please.
Great.
Sorry, there's a little bit of a delay. Can you all hear me?
Yep.
Great. Yeah, I share some of Councilor Garrett and Councilor Toronto's concerns about this. I also generally trust our fire department to know what they need. And I want them to have what they need to do their jobs to keep us all safe. So if they believe they need an electronic sign, I'm sure they have good reason for that. And I want us to be able to spend our grant money effectively and in compliance with the rules of the grant. I do wish that we did discuss this in March on EDC, but now that we have the executive order, we have a lot more information that I think is important. The wording of the executive order is overly broad for me. The words shall not create any safety hazards leave a pretty wide open question of who gets to decide what a safety hazard is and when it might be caused by a sign. And there are real safety concerns. The councilor brought, or a lot of digital signs actually increase accidents, and particularly downtown where we're already It's already kind of messy. I'm very concerned.
Thank you. Councillor Golub.
I have a comment, but I still have another question, and this might be for Clerk Scott. The code preempts, an executive order does not preempt code, correct? The code takes precedent, correct?
So this is an ordinance?
Sure, right, which is
in
part
the
of the code,
code.
right. And the ordinance takes precedent over an executive order, so, correct? Just, I'm following up on a
So that is true, however, these documents would be in combination with one another. You can't have one without the other.
as long as we passed the change to the ordinance allowing for municipal use, correct?
Correct.
Okay, okay. I just want to name, I'm still not sure how I'm going to vote on this. I'm feeling quite torn. Looking at the executive order, my son is 16 and he bikes and plans to maybe stick around Greenfield and bike. And so driver safety actually I think is a really important issue. So when you name that, that gets raised for me. And I do wish that we that this had been able to go back to EDC and there had been further conversation about this. I don't like that money was spent outside of what the ordinance says it should be spent for. I don't think that that's good practice, and yet I also don't. I feel like more vetting of this is necessary. That we did send this back to committee, and I'm feeling torn that it wasn't discussed. And yet I hear the importance of if this was vetted and we did find that this was needed, then I do trust the fire department. I feel very torn. This might actually be the hardest decision this evening.
Councillor Garrett.
So I just wanted to, just kind of reiterate that one of the big problems I have with voting on this tonight is, again, the process. We had done that meeting in March. There had been a recommendation to bring it forward to the full council. At that full council meeting, we sent it back to committee, again, specifically in order to let the administration come up with language. They did, and then we never looked at it. And so we did look at it back in March, and now we're in this position again where we have legislation in front of us that hasn't been discussed in a subcommittee meeting. So really, in a lot of ways, what I'm speaking about as far as wanting to move on this, I have, again, the language specifically we should be discussing in a subcommittee, but I'm trying to advocate that we do a regular process, which is something that, Councilor Bullock has mentioned when we were talking about the major development review. We shouldn't legislate for a specific instance, and this is a great example of not doing that. I understand Councilor Minhas and everyone who is concerned about the grant. The last thing in the world I want to do is waste taxpayer dollars and spend money in ways that it's not going to be productive for the citizens of Greenfield. But we also make better laws when we do a process that makes better laws. And so that's, again, really the part that I keep getting stuck on, is that we should have a discussion and do our research and come with a fully fleshed out idea rather than being under the gun because there's a deadline.
We'll have Councillor Toronzo, then Gordon, then Bullock. So Councillor Toronzo.
So I just want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly as well. So this executive order is essentially just laying out verbiage for what the signs can be. Because our ordinance doesn't dictate that at this point. So we essentially would just be opening the door for municipal use. And this executive order would be outlining the little bit of regulation that would be on those signs for the municipal use. Is that correct?
For now, yes.
Right. So, again, I mean, I guess regardless of how the vote on it would go, I would probably move to amend that we take out the last sentence of this paragraph 5. If we're going to put in this new language that says, with the exception of municipal uses, why would we bother having that last sentence that says, signs that are with this technology are placed by a public agency for the purpose of directing or regulating pedestrian or vehicle movement are exempt? We've already just exempted them by saying the municipality can do whatever they want.
Clerk Scott is just going to clarify a point on that.
So part of a zoning amendment, when you get to this point, you can't create a substantive change to how the proposal was submitted. That would be a substantive change, even though I'm not an attorney, and Eric Torag is not here to say it either, and he's not an attorney. That would be a substantive change and would not be allowed under Chapter 40A. Not to say that it can't be changed moving forward.
Because this was passed by planning board. And so I think that the important piece of this, I know we're now down the wormhole that I didn't want to go down, but the important piece of this is that the planning board approved this. If we were going to discuss this in EDC, we would have had to hold a special hearing, a special meeting this month, because the meeting was after the date that the grant needed to be, the money needed to be spent by. And so because the month was weird this month, so committee chairs was later. And so passing this change of 5 words or whatever is to be in conjunction with the current procedure. And what I heard in our planning board, in our EDC meeting, when this was recommended to us by the planning board, was a lot of policy and procedure that we would like in conjunction with the ordinance. And so the mayor has provided us with an executive order that can be temporary until we come back and then legislate what the parameters are. This is to have the two pieces together, like Kathy was saying, that travel together.
Councillor Gordon?
Actually, point of order. Councillor Healy hasn't spoken yet, and he had his hand up.
Thank you. Healy, and then we'll go back to Councillor Gordon.
Yeah, so I have to agree with Councillor Bullock on this one. I think that last statement, public agency, so let's think about that from a legal perspective between municipalities and public agencies. So FEMA could come in here for some reason. They're a public agency. They're not a municipality. So it protects that right for during an emergency for those people to come out and put up signs to direct traffic, right? So I'm not too worried about the language here. I think we could go back and correct it. As far as safety standpoint, the National Highway Safety Transportation Administration, if they can allow a sign on the Mass Pike that says use your blinker, I don't see why we can't have a sign outside the fire station.
Councillor Gordon.
Thank you. To Councillor Meanhouse's point, I have a question or clarification. It seems to me that the sentence at the end of the paragraph that Councillor Toronzo is concerned about, signs with this technology that are placed by a public agency for the purpose of directing or regulating pedestrian or vehicle movement are exempt. It seems to me like that addresses Councillor Meanhouse's concern about, signs directing traffic or pointing out a roadblock or something like that. But is that correct?
That's how I interpreted it when we first read it.
I wonder if the clerk has a comment on that, if you know.
No,
All right, thanks.
I don't interpret zoning.
Fair. And I apologize for staying off camera. I apparently have a pretty lousy connection here. So I'm hoping it doesn't crash again. But I mean, I hear what Councillor Healy is saying about, with the NTSB signs, that are up on the highway. But I think that that's the exact concern that some of us have about safety, is that lots of studies show that those signs actually increase accidents. And that's exactly what we don't want to have happen here. So I'm still really torn about this, and not sure how I'm going to vote. But I do think that signs, pointing out a traffic issue are allowed anyway.
Councillor Wondolowski?
So Counselor Bullock, if I'm understanding correctly, if we voted on this, then you all could go back in committee, come up with the right wording, the right regulations, and bring it back to council, and that this can be kind of a placeholder. Is that?
We have a planning board recommendation, so this can come back. We can reintroduce a similar thing. Or it can be, it can be voted down, and we could table it, it can expire, and then because we have that planning board recommendation, it can come back to us. That was the big upset at the previous meeting about planning board, is that interpretation of that understanding, but that we can do that. We could table this, it can expire, and we can bring it back in the same or different form.
Councillor Gilmore.
I just wanted to clarify, if we do make a change, we can't just change it again next month. There's a certain amount of time. And I don't remember what that time frame is off the top of my head. But we can't just say we're gonna this is what we're doing in May and this is what we're doing in June.
No, I understand. I just know that there's a more fleshed out version that it sounds like needs to happen at some point.
Councillor Golub.
This is not yet a motion, but I'm wondering about the possibility, and I don't think this addresses all of the concerns that have been voiced, but if we need a placeholder before we really flesh out the safety requirements, I'm wondering if it would, about the possibility, and I'm naming this more as a rhetorical question, but I'm wondering about the possibility of amending the motion to strike municipal uses and replace it with the fire department, so that the expenditure of these funds could happen in now. And
I think
I'm not sure
I
if
would
I'm
interpret that as a significant change. Honestly, for the sake of time, I'm apt to call this to question just so that we can move forward. I don't want to stifle the conversation, but I feel strongly that to align our code with what is going to move forward in the city, and for us to not have to pay back $150,000 that we have code that aligns. So all of that to say, I agree with many of the things that were said here. I think there's a big case going on about those signs right now where there's I like them, I think they're funny, and there's concerns about them. I thought about this the other night when the Northern Lights were happening, and it was, you couldn't see them in Greenfield, but then I drove to Shelburne, you could see them in Shelburne. So I hear what all of you are saying, and for the sake of us being able to utilize this funding, and utilize the signposts that we have built into two brand new municipal buildings.
Councillor Bullock, was that a motion?
Yeah, I want to call this a question. Sorry.
Second.
So that will, we'll need a roll
Motion to call the question is non-debatable. On the motion to call the question, yes would mean we then vote the question and then go directly into voting the proposed zoning amendment. Councillor Golub?
no.
Councillor Gordon?
Yes.
Councillor Master Totoro?
Yes.
Councillor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Councillor Perry?
Yes.
Councillor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to call the question?
Yes, yes.
The motion passes by majority. The vote now is on order number 24069.4A, the zoning amendment to add with the exception of municipal uses. Counselor Golub,
Pass.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Totoro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
No.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo,
No.
Counselor Golub.
I abstain.
Does the president wish to vote?
No.
The motion required 9. The motion passes.
It's still Wednesday.
Moving on to Counselor Toronzo, the transfer on page 67.
What's there? Order number FY 24-101, City Council upon recommendation of the mayor, in order to transfer $145,155.32 from bond premiums to water principal paydown, moves that it be ordered to transfer the amount of $145,155.32 from water enterprise bond premiums, Fund 1627, to water principal paydowns, account number 61007100599991. Majority vote required.
Second.
I'm trying to remember, is there a report, or did this come directly?
No, this was, we went over this, positive unanimous. This was some housekeeping from some orders that we had made before that were coming from the wrong account, got rescinded, and now these are the correct accounts to come from.
Do we have any discussion on this item?
Get a second.
Yes.
Councilor Wondolowski seconded.
Thank you.
We'll do a roll call vote on this.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Mastrotaro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes. Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas has left the rail, Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes.
And the next transfer.
Order number FY 24-102, the city council upon recommendation of the mayor, in order to transfer $214,000 from bond premiums to sewer principal paydown, moves that it be ordered to transfer the amount of $214,000 from sewer enterprise bond premiums, Fund 1627, to sewer principal paydowns, account number 6,710059991. Majority vote required. Pause. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Second.
This is also positive, unanimous. This is the other half of the housekeeping coinciding with the last order.
Any discussion? Seeing none, a roll call vote?
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Mastrotaro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes.
Order number FY 24-103, the city council upon recommendation of the mayor, in order to transfer $14,148.05 from free cash to close out grant deficits. Moves that it be ordered to transfer the amount of $14,148.05 from free cash to close out deficits in various uncollectible grant funds. Majority vote required.
Second?
This also had a positive unanimous recommendation.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote?
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro?
Yes.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore? Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes?
Counselor Toronto?
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Order number FY 24-104, the city council upon recommendation of the mayor, an order for water main replacement moves that it be ordered to appropriate the sum of $500,000 to replace water mains and to meet said appropriation, $500,000 be transferred from FY 24 water retained earnings, majority vote required.
Second.
Positive unanimous recommendation from committee.
Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call vote, please?
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro?
Yes.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes?
Counselor Toronto?
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, the big one.
All right, moving on to the fun stuff. Before we read this motion, I just wanted to give a little bit of a background how we're going to go through this. If you're using your budget book, you can turn to page 33. The plan is Councilor Toronzo will go department by department and read the total line for each department. And we'll give a report from committee, and I will open this for discussion for amendment. At that point, anyone can recommend an amendment to cut, which would be the normal, in the form of a motion to cut a certain dollar amount and that total, the total of that after the cut. I think that's it. When we're done with this, we'll probably take a 5 or 10 minute break to make sure that the number is correct, so that we can then go back to the original motion to amend the correct number in that motion, if there are any cuts.
Could I make
Yeah.
a
Yes,
suggestion that we take our break now before we start discussion on the operating?
I second that.
excellent
And I heard
idea.
that.
Let's take a 5 minute break.
A lot of readings.
We will resume our meeting, please.
Counselors, we're starting the meeting again.
Counselor Toronzo, page 76.
I gotta get on my computer eyes here. All right. Order number FY 24-105, the City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, to appropriate $64,866,698 for the FY 2025 general fund budget, moves that it be ordered that the City Council vote to appropriate the sum of $64,866,698, which is the full amount necessary for the fiscal year 2025 general fund budget, July 1, 2024 to June 30th, 2025. To meet said appropriation, the following funding sources and amounts will be raised and transferred from parking meter receipts reserve, $350,000, OPEB stabilization, $200,000, pension stabilization, $421,243, free cash, $200,000, raise and appropriate, $63,695,455. Majority vote required.
Second.
And
All right.
we will start out top of the budget.
Can I say, for streamlining purposes, if I don't give you a report from committee, we only had a few that were not positive unanimous. So if I don't, can that be considered positive unanimous?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Let me get my stuff together. All right. First is legislative total city council, $91,375.
Any discussion? Moving forward.
All right. Executive, total mayor, $234,531.
Any discussion? Moving forward.
Total chief of staff, $81,250.
Discussion? Seeing none, moving.
Total economic development, $168,107.
Discussion? Moving forward.
Accounting, total accounting, $411,390.
Discussion? Moving forward.
Total audit, 60 grand.
Discussion? Moving forward.
Assessors, $259,333.
Any discussion? Move.
Treasurer collector, $226,851.
Discussion? Moving forward.
Tax title, 60 grand.
Discussion? Moving forward.
Legal labor, $95,000.
Discussion? Moving forward.
Legal city, $150,000.
Discussion? Moving forward.
Human resources, $266,050.
Discussion? Moving forward.
Technology, $607,800.
Discussion? Moving forward.
City clerk, $201,719.
Discussion? Next.
Elections, $51,500.
Discussion? Next.
Board of registrars, $18,500.
Discussion? Next.
Licensing commission, $42,553.
Any discussion? Next.
Conservation commission, $500.
Discussion. Next.
Planning Board, $500.
Next.
Zoning Board, $500.
Next.
Planning Department, $121,496.
Next.
Central Services, $334,028.
Any discussion? Next.
Central Maintenance, $792,868.
Next.
Energy, $1,040,617.
Next.
Police, $3,811,921.
Any discussion? Next.
Parking, $111,600.
Discussion? Next.
Dispatch, $721,809. This did have a proposed cut of $10,000 from the dispatch salary line. It was a split vote, 3 yea, 2 nay. That was the report.
Does anyone want to make a motion to, or
I
a
just wanted to
discussion?
ask, could you repeat, what was that split?
It was 3 yeses for the cut and 2 nos. It was 10,000 from dispatch salary line, 01002130.5130.
Councilor Perry.
I was one of no votes on that. I just feel that the mayor had already cut that line item, and to me, it just seemed like it was unnecessary for us to do any further.
Thank you. Any other comments on this? Councilor Wondolowski?
Just to understand the cut, because they had added extra staffing, we felt like that could decrease in the overtime. But not all of it down, just a little bit of a cut.
So just a point of order, could I just point out that since we're talking about a cut, you would actually have to make
a
the motion
motion.
here to make that cut. You didn't seem like you wanted to make the motion.
Thank you. Yes, we would need a
We're just
motion.
giving a report.
Councilor Master Tataro?
Yeah, I just want to make sure everybody knows that was from the overtime pay, overtime salary. And the rationale was, we added a 11th full-time employee dispatcher, and that was the rationale behind cutting 10,000 from the 60,000.
We still need a motion, really, before we can discuss this.
And it has to just come from the blanket salary and wages line. It can't be made.
Councilor Toronzo could do his line, but we cannot do specific line item cuts. It only comes from the bottom line of salary and wages, but that's what I'm hearing is that's your rationale. So do we have a motion for this? I'm not seeing any, so moving on.
Yes.
Councilor Master Tataro.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we make that cut. Can we do, is that the proper?
So if you'd say, I make a motion to amend the new total to be, and then give a sum.
I'd like to make a motion to amend the new total to be,
No. The overall
we have
line
to
is
subtract it from that line,
from
right?
716, 309.
Yeah.
So you lower that by 10 grand.
So just to be clear, is the motion to amend the salary and wages line by $10,000
Yes,
to make it,
thank you.
thank you.
Second.
And we'll continue discussion. Any more discussion on this item? Councilor Garrett?
I just want to reiterate, Councilor Mastrutaro's rationale made sense to me with the additional dispatcher. less overtime seems logical. And if the overtime becomes necessary, then there can always be amended order. And so that was kind of the thought process behind this.
Counselor Minhas?
Yeah, I understand that there's always need for more labor and personnel because there's just an unlimited number of hours and work that needs to actually be done, but I do agree with the rationale there. If we're adding on another full-time person, why do you need the same overtime amount? So I'd vote in support of this.
Any more discussion on this? Seeing none, we'll do a roll call vote.
Sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
As you went through, were any other departments that had overtime that increased their staffing? Did any of those other departments receive decreases in overtime?
Yes.
Counselor Toronto?
Yeah, one.
Other than dispatch?
Yep.
Can you tell me?
Fire. Yep.
Okay. And was there a reason, didn't we have 3 new police officers, but we didn't decrease their overtime? We have 3 new police officers because of the cops grant?
Correct. I don't, I think when we were well, do you want me to wait till we get to that line to discuss that?
We already went through police, didn't we?
We
Okay.
did just go through police, you're right. Yeah, so, yes, that was, we looked back at the previous years before those positions were cut, and going off of the amounts that we had. So they had cuts to their staffing as opposed to adding, this isn't really adding additional staff. We were looking back at their overtime prior to the cutting of the other officers and comparing it that way, that it was more in line. I guess that's where that came from.
Okay, so then the only other one was fire?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Any more discussion on this? Roll call vote?
Counselor Golub,
Yes. Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
No.
Counselor Master Tutoro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
No.
Vice President Gilmore,
No.
Counselor Perry,
No.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
No.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Absolutely not.
Counselor Toronto.
No.
Does the president wish to vote?
No.
The motion fails for lack of a majority.
So we're moving on to fire.
Right. Fire total, $3,220,350. This was also, as just noted, there was an $11,500 proposed cut from the permanent salary part-time. Well, that was the rationale behind it. I know, as I explained at the meeting there as well, we can't tell them where to move their money, but moving it from $12,500 to $1,000 because it seemed like it was underutilized. Again, this was a split, 3 yes, 2 no on that recommendation.
So we would need a motion to discuss this.
I'll make the motion to, could you give me the number again?
11,500.
Motion to amend the total from, and this is going to be on fire, $2,923,600 to, and it was a $10,000 cut?
11,500.
Oh, geez, okay. I teach history, not math, sorry.
2,912,1.
2,912,1.
Do we have a second?
Second?
open this up for discussion. Counselor Perry?
I was a no on this. The chief did a great job explaining how difficult it is for him to man the firehouse and how every penny counts. And to me, this seems like an unnecessary cut. And it sends the wrong message to the firehouse.
Thank you. Counselor Gilmore?
I'm actually concerned about a little bit of a legal issue, and I don't know if I could direct a question to the chief through you, but I'm pretty sure that in their collective bargaining agreement, they have minimal staffing at each shift. And if we are in breach of that contract, we can get sued, and we don't want to get sued. I don't know if they would be able to follow the contract that they have if we make this cut, and that's why I'm curious if the chief could, because I don't expect you to have the answer. I was wondering if the chief could speak to that a little bit.
Would you like to address that?
That is a great question. Thank you for that. I would love to tell you that that's the case, but that is not. The specific language in the contract says per piece manning, a cut, big cuts to overtime, if that was the choice, would mean that one of the trucks I wouldn't be able to maintain. It doesn't say that we have to have them. It just says that if I have them, I have to put so many firefighters on it, if that makes sense. Okay. And if I don't have the firefighters, then I don't put it on it. So it's a fire truck or an ambulance but, okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Counselor Perry, unless there's any
To me, that just seems like, is that the way we want to run the fire department, not have a truck be able to go out because he can't staff the fire staff that day? That to me seems ludicrous.
Counselor Master Totaro?
I know that we take this off the bottom line, but the rationale behind this was not firefighter wages. If I recall, this is permanent salary wages, part-time, and I think this had to do with volunteer firemen, which historically hasn't been used, at least the last few years. So we left $1,000 in there. It was the line item is $12,500. We took all but $1,000 out. Michael.
Counselor, actually, I'm going to go to Council Toronto.
I just wanted to point out, again, this is what we discussed this, like at Ways and Means. We can only take off the bottom line. And even though we can say our rationale is that's why we were doing it or suggesting it, that doesn't mean where that money's going to come from. But just to point that out, again, we can only do off of all the salaries and wages or all of the expenses. Just want to make that point again.
Counselor Garrett.
So just to address Counselor Perry's point about leaving the fire department without the ability to man all their trucks, the permanent officers in the fire department have a contract. That contract is a deal they make with the city. We would be in breach of that contract if we cut substantially enough to impact that. But because this is non-contractual, that's a reason that this recommendation from 3 of the 5 members came, basically. We effectively have a volunteer fire department kind of symbolically embedded in our professional fire department, which is a beautiful tradition. And, it's not something that isn't without merit. But when we were looking at the budget, we were looking at it from where is there savings possibly anywhere? And that was kind of the thinking behind this.
Counselor Gordon.
Yeah, I know a lot of work and thinking went into this whole discussion. I really appreciate all the work that Ways and Means has done on all of this. But and I know that we need to, watch every penny. And it just feels to me a little bit like we're kind of nickel and diming, fire and dispatch with these cuts. We're talking about a $65 million overall budget here. So, these small cuts don't feel substantive to me. And especially given that the fire department is looking at, a 0% increase in a time when we all know costs really are going up and up. It doesn't feel useful or terribly respectful of their work to make this cut for me.
Any more discussion on this? Ready for a roll call vote on the amendment?
Counselor Golub,
No.
Counselor Gordon,
No.
Counselor Master Totaro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
No.
Vice President Gilmore,
No.
Counselor Perry,
No.
Counselor Wondolowski,
No.
Counselor Healy,
No.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
No.
Counselor Ricketts,
No.
Counselor Toronzo.
No.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and no.
The motion fails by majority.
Things off. Building inspections, $257,050.
Any discussion? Next.
Weights and measures, 25,000.
Next.
FERCog inspection program, $101,400.
Next.
Animal inspections, $3,000.
Next.
Emergency management, $23,100.
Next.
Animal control, $31,893.
Next.
Education assessments, $1,391,968.
Any discussion? Next.
Greenfield Public Schools, $23,697,803. There was a proposal, a recommendation rather, to cut $6,260 from the school budget. It was unanimously positive, and the rationale was based on the number, again, we'll just give them a bottom line, but the rationale behind it was that in the budget, the cost for the assistant superintendent salary for this year was erroneously written at $6,260 more than what the actual salary is. So it just seemed like, well, I know it's only $6,260, but
Do we have a motion? Seeing none, we'll go on to the next.
Public Works, DPW operating, $2,676,522.
Discussion? Next.
DPW snow and ice removal, $217,800.
Next.
DPW street cleaning, $42,000.
Next.
DPW trash disposal, $455,000.
Next.
DPW cemetery, $8,000.
Next.
Total health inspection services, $219,820.
Next.
Council on Aging, $174,031.
Next.
I believe Youth Commission is zeroed. It just says divided by zero in here.
Nope. Yep.
Veteran Services, $589,416. Human Rights Commission, $500.
Next.
Commission on Disability Access, $500.
Next.
Domestic Violence Task Force, also $500. Culture and Recreation, $624 for library.
Next.
Rec Department, $269,703.
Say 269.
269,703.
Any discussion? Next.
Historical Commission, $1,100.
Next.
Long-term debt principal, $1,919,000.
Next.
Long-term debt interest, $1,410,821.
Next.
Let's see, short-term debt. Oh yeah, short-term debt was zero, right? FERCog assessment, $92,684.
Next.
Contributory retirement, $6,479,699.
Next.
Workers' compensation insurance, $380,000.
Next.
Unemployment insurance, $90,000.
Next.
Employees' health insurance, $8,848,475.
Next.
Employees' life insurance, $133,000.
Next.
Medicare city match, $530,000.
Next.
Liability insurance, $749,141.
And that is it.
So that'd bring our total operating budget to $64,866,698, as presented in the order.
Do you want to do it? Right.
So with no changes, this will be the motion as originally read. So we'll be going to a roll call vote.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Mastro Totaro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts, Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Okay.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo, the
Still me.
transfer on page 85.
FY 24-106, City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, in order to transfer $125,000 from band premiums to FY 25 general fund short-term interest. Moves that it be ordered to transfer the amount of $125,000 from general fund band premiums fund 1628 to FY 25 general fund short-term interest account 010075205925.
Need a second on that?
Second?
Report from committee?
Unanimous positive. We did have a little, just for posterity's sake, we did have a little bit of a question with the way that the sheet came out on where this was going because of the layout. Under general fund, it only said we had 118,000 and change. So the question was, where did the other 6,000 and change come from? We did get clarification from the city accountant that there is a line under the fire department's band premium that 6,000 is coming from. It's one of those, the other ones were all labeled in columns because they were enterprises and those can't be moved out. But the one that's in the fire department band premium can be used for the general fund. And that was given to us, I think, the next day after our meeting last week.
Excellent. Any discussion on this? Roll call vote.
Yes.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Counselor Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Order number FY 24-107, the City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, to appropriate the sum of $2,538,458 for the FY 25 Water Enterprise Fund. Move that it be ordered that the sum of $2,051,773 be appropriated for the FY 25 operations of the water enterprise, and further appropriate the sum of $486,685 to be transferred to the general fund for indirect costs, for a total appropriation to the water enterprise fund of $2,538,458 to be raised from water user rate receipts for the fiscal year starting July 1, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. Majority vote required.
Second?
Report.
Unanimous, positive.
Any discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Counselor Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Order number FY 24-108, the City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, in order to transfer $7,500 from band premiums to FY 25 water short-term interest, moves that it be ordered to transfer the amount of $7,500 from water enterprise band premiums, Fund 1628, to FY 25 water short-term interest, account number 610075205925. Majority vote required.
Second?
Report on this?
Sorry, unanimous, positive.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro,
Yep.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Order number FY 24-109, the City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, to appropriate the sum of $3,586,722 for the FY 25 Sewer Enterprise Fund, moves that it be ordered that the sum of $2,981,199 be appropriated for the FY 25 operations of the Sewer Enterprise, and further appropriate the sum of $605,523 to be transferred to the general fund for indirect costs, for a total appropriation to the Sewer Enterprise Fund of $3,586,722 to be raised from sewer user rate receipts for the fiscal year starting July 1, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. Majority vote required.
Second?
Unanimous, positive recommendation.
Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
FY 24-110, the City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, in order to transfer $25,000 from band premiums to FY 25 sewer short-term interest, moves that it be ordered to transfer the amount of $25,000 from sewer enterprise band premiums, Fund 1628, to FY 25 sewer short-term interest, account number 600075205925. Majority vote required.
Second?
Unanimous, positive from committee.
Discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Tataro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts,
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo.
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
Motion passes unanimously.
Order number FY24-111, the City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, to appropriate the sum of $2,326,674 for the FY25 GSAT Enterprise Fund. Move that it be ordered that the sum of $2,183,131 be appropriated for the FY25 operations of the GSAT Enterprise, and further appropriate the sum of $143,543 to be transferred to the general fund for indirect costs, for a total appropriation to the GSAT Enterprise Fund of $2,326,674 to be raised from GSET user rate receipts for the fiscal year starting July 1, 2024 and ending June 30th, 2025. Majority vote required.
Second.
Unanimous, positive recommendation.
Discussion, Counselor Golub?
I'm wondering if, given the time and that the folks from GSET are here, if they might be able to speak briefly, not like the last time, but briefly to the the last presentation about 6 months ago was fabulous. But those of us who have constituents who are not yet covered by GSET, I think that it would be helpful to hear briefly about. I'm not
Point
sure
of
yet.
order.
Point of
order. I'm not sure that this is related to the transfer.
This is a budget.
And it may not be, and I respect if it isn't, but I felt like it's important to ask for folks who are not yet covered by GSET.
Yeah, I think this has been covered in subcommittee multiple times also. So I think I'm fine with continuing our discussion on the transfer to appropriate and the motion to appropriate.
So just to clarify, the conversation about the allocation of these funds and the coverage of GSET in the areas of the town that are not yet covered does not feel like an appropriate topic for conversation at this moment.
Perhaps we can get an update or schedule that for Ways and Means next month.
Point of order. Normally, department heads address the council at the beginning of the meeting. We're voting on our motions, orders, and resolutions.
So we can invite Jonathan if you'd like to.
Yes.
I think, could I say something?
Counselor Minhas.
I agree with you, Sheila, there, but we had the fire chief come up, and I think if we could get a 1-minute statement or less, just to be like, okay, what is GSET doing?
Point of order.
That would be cool, if legally possible.
Counselor?
I think the big difference here, and we talked about this even at budget meetings as well, is limiting the scope. The question that was directed towards the fire chief had to do specifically with funding. That was on a line item for salaries. This does not. This has to do with the operations of the department as a whole. I think in my opinion, it's outside of what we're here to discuss at operating budget and budget transfer.
Counselor Healy?
I'd like to know how this funding gets Precinct 1 and Precinct 9 GSET coverage.
Agreed.
If we want to open this door.
I do.
Okay. Come on up. Director Lunt?
But that's where the response has to come then, right? And not the whole.
North Build proceeds with telephone poles and make-ready work being done by Eversource and Verizon. Additional grants that we are applying for, have applied for additional coverage in the north are not awarded yet, but we're quite confident that we will get that too.
Follow-up?
Does that suffice?
I do have a follow-up to that.
Of course she does.
I do.
Counselor Golub?
Yeah. When you say the North Build continues, does that refer to the expansion that you had shared with us about 6 months ago?
Yep. We wait for Eversource and Verizon to finish their work in engineering, and they schedule according to their timeline for when they have to do the work to either put in new poles or move lines around on the poles. It's proceeding. They don't tell us when it'll be done. It's just done when it's done.
Do we have any more questions? I do want to add one comment, having been my 5th year on city council, that we've been hearing the exact same thing for now going on 5 years. So that's the only comment that I will add on the build out, is that it's make ready now for 5 years, including the promise of, pretty good funding and ARPA. So I'm very concerned about this build out when we hear the same thing year after year after year. So I think it would be great to schedule another meeting with the subcommittee so this can be brought into more depth. So moving on, we are ready to vote. Let's roll call vote. Thank you.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Mastrotaro?
Yep.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo?
Yep.
Does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
Order number FY 24-112. The City Council, upon recommendation of the mayor, to establish budgets for revolving funds pursuant to MGL Chapter 44, subsection 53E and a half. Moves that it be ordered to authorize the revolving funds budget in accordance with MGL Chapter 44, section 53E and a half for the fiscal year 2025. Receipts received but not expended in fiscal year 2025 shall be carried over to fiscal year 2026 unless otherwise prescribed in MGL. Majority vote required.
Second.
And report from committee.
Unanimous, positive.
Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, roll call vote, please.
Counselor Golub?
Yes.
Counselor Gordon?
Yes.
Counselor Mastrotaro?
Yes.
Counselor Bullock?
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore?
Yes.
Counselor Perry?
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski?
Yes.
Counselor Healy?
Yes.
Counselor Garrett?
Yes.
Counselor Minhas?
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts?
Yes.
Counselor Toronzo?
Yep.
And does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes unanimously.
So that is it for the budget. I would like to thank the Ways and Means Committee because this went pretty quickly. And a lot of that is because of their really detailed work. They really asked great questions. They worked hard. Councilor Toronzo did a great job of leading this. So thank you all. It's very, very time consuming to do that work. Moving on to presentations there. Oh, yeah.
I just want to thank the executive department and other department heads for the work that they did to get it to Ways and Means. The presentations were impressive. The work they did, the hard choices they had to make, made our job a little easier, but it was the leadership of of the president of the Ways and Means who really set the tone and made the work a lot more easy to get through. So I thank everybody for all the efforts.
Thank you for that, Councilor Perry.
You're all right.
There were no presentations of petitions and papers. Any reports from committee? Unfinished business? Old business? New business? Councilor Gilmore, Vice President Gilmore.
Yeah, could we add it to the committee chair's agenda to talk about when it's appropriate to cancel subcommittee meetings? Because I think we had a really long discussion tonight, and I think that councilors deserve to get some of this work done during subcommittees. So if the chair's not going to be present, you can fill in as president. I can also fill in as vice president to make sure that we have a quorum, because that work should be happening at the subcommittee instead of here.
Thank you. First readings, page 109, Councilor Toronzo.
Great. Sorry. Oh, cool, it's the same thing. Transfer $3,854,000, sorry. Well, transfer $3,854.92 from free cash to close out CDBG grant deficits for 2018 and 2019. Transfer $30,000 from free cash to FY24 legal labor. Appropriate $150,000 from Fund 8402 Capital Stabilization for 2 marked police cruisers. Appropriate $150,000 from FY24 Sewer Enterprise Retained Earnings to FY24 Sewer Enterprise Operating Budget. FY 2025 Community Preservation Budget. I can't click here. Order to approve FY 2025 Community Preservation Fund Budget Administration Costs and Reserves. Appropriate $20,000 from CPA undesignated for restoration and repainting historic cornice at 278 to 302 Main Street. Appropriate $3,900 from CPA reserve for recreation for bike racks in Greenfield parks. Appropriate $50,000, $11,450 from CPA reserve for housing, $38,550 from CPA undesignated for new affordable housing design at 156 to 176 Main Street. Appropriate $34,800, $26,450 from CPA reserve for historic, $8,350 from CPA undesignated to repair the garden block building at 353 to 367 Main Street. Appropriate $125,000, $22,550 from CPA reserve for recreation, $102,450 from CPA undesignated for hillside park improvements. Appropriate $25,650 from CPA undesignated for creation of affordable housing at 187 Hope Street. Appropriate $15,000 from CPA reserve for creation of affordable housing at 184 Petty Plain Road. Appropriate $25,650 from CPA undesignated for wayfinding signage and map kiosks at Rocky Mountain and Highland Park trails.
Thank you. There are no motions for reconsideration. I'll take a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Roll call vote.
Counselor Golub,
Yes.
Counselor Gordon,
Yes.
Counselor Master Totoro,
Yes.
Counselor Bullock,
Yes.
Vice President Gilmore,
Yes.
Counselor Perry,
Yes.
Counselor Wondolowski,
Yes.
Counselor Healy,
Yes.
Counselor Garrett,
Yes.
Counselor Minhas,
Yes.
Counselor Ricketts.
No.
Duly noted. Counselor Toronzo,
Absolutely.
does the president wish to vote?
Yes and yes.
The motion passes by majority at 9:03.